Hello and welcome to PM Express, and by now you should be all sat back, relaxed, waiting for the topic as usual. Thank you for staying tuned. Free SHS and matters are rising, but the big question I'm raising on the show today is that after free SHS, then what? Now, free SHS is a fantastic policy by all accounts. Everybody applauds it, that there should be free SHS. Indeed, so the floodgates were open. We are told that about 100,000 students who would not have had the opportunity to go to school have all now gone to school. And also, funny enough, normally 70% of the people who get a place to get the opportunity to go to free SHS normally attend. So if 100 people were passed to go to school, only 70 turn up. This year, 92% turned up. So apart from the 100,000 that have been added on, the usual attendees have gone up by in excess of 20%. So they are, in excess of 460-something thousand pupils and students in SHS1, which is good. The more educated people, the more educated brains we have, the more money the state will get. There are challenges where, the infrastructure is not holding up, teachers are not holding up. But in 3 years' time, 460 people, let's say 20,000 even drop out, that's 440,000 students will come out. These are sixth formers. If you're old as me, these are sixth formers who have come out. Are they going into the labor market? Are they going into the tertiary market? Are they going into apprenticeship? What is Ghana preparing for them that in 3 years' time, or maybe 2.5 years' time, this is your avenue? And that's a conversation that I hope that the nation would raise, that after free SHS, then what do you do with all these students who come out? My name is Nana Sakwal, the fourth chief of the Little Republic of Akwamodimasa, and your favorite TV show host. When I come back after a short clip that you're going to watch with regards to challenges that are being faced in the schools, I have fine guests in the studio who are going to tell me that after free SHS, what will Ghana do with the influx of graduate SHS students? Still go.
That is it. 606 students were admitted at the Keleo Senior High Technical School for the free HHS, bringing the total student population of the school to 1,452. Prior to the implementation of the free HHS policy, the school was offering 3 elective courses, namely agriculture science, technical and vocational studies. They then applied to the Ghana Education Service to enable them begin a program in general science and were added general arts. The school has a major challenge in its infrastructure and capacity to accommodate the entire student population. The Keleo Senior High School has few classrooms, works on a 1-story building for the home science department have reached an advanced stage, but the contractor abandoned the site due to delayed payment by the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund. Akremeto Jamila is a first-year student of the school.
Our classroom is very bad. We don't have lights, we don't have fan, and the floor too is not well plastic. So we are just suffering here. Even cry, we don't have blackboard. The blackboard we are using is plywood. We use some battery to paint. So whenever the teacher is writing on the board, he always becomes dirty. So it makes our learning very difficult.
A more worrying issue is the inadequate furniture at the school. Some of the tables or chairs have crooked stands. The cruel reality is that some of the students place wawa boards on cement blocks, and these serve as tables and chairs. Ibrahim Jare says awkward sitting arrangement is having a serious effect on their health.
We are using the dining hall tables and chairs to sit, even to the extent that if they give us exercise or something like that, even if you don't know anything, but the way you sit, you can't even write. Sometimes we just lie on the table and write. If not, you can't get space to write.
Headmistress of the school, Pogna Patricia Jere, has another worry: finding teachers for all the subjects. This class, for example, is supposed to have mathematics, but there is no teacher.
The teachers are not enough to take all the different areas to teach us. If some of the courses, such as core maths and elective maths, our master, some of them, they are not there. So they used to say other teachers to come and teach us. So when they are also having class, that's how we will just sit down until after their class, they will just come and help us. Means we are just parasiting like that.
However, Patricia Jere said she is working to fix it.
Before the program took off, they have to come and assess the school to see whether we have teachers, the resources are there for these programs. And it was commended that we had the resources. But of late, there was some challenge. And just recently, a maths teacher, because of some trouble that came in, has to be released back to the district office. So that is where the challenge is coming out. So I've released the maths teacher as at now to go back to the district office. Then I'm going to negotiate with the district director and the regional director to see how they can fill this gap for the school.
The school also has challenges in accommodating the over 600 new students. A food store and a small teachers' quarters for 5 teachers have been converted into a dormitory. Patricia Jera again.
To support the new policy take-off successfully, I pleaded with the masters to get accommodation elsewhere around the town, and I've put in the first year's girls here, 136 of them, to stay here for the meantime, hoping that government will come to our aid one day by providing the accommodation facilities for the school. So this is a master's bungalow as an yesterday staying, but for now the girls are staying here. I've hosted part of the girls in this bungalow.
Putting 136 girls in about 5 rooms, are they not congested?
There's congestion, but for now, once it's not raining, we are managing for now. And we have even used one of the food stores as a girls' dormitory. So part of them are also there.
But it's warm. But it's not raining, but it's warm.
It's warm. Once it's not raining and it is warm, at least we'll use the yard for now. It's inconvenience for them, but we are all compromising. There's nothing we can do. But we are hoping that the government will come to our aid. I have the hope that they will come to our aid, and then this decongestion will be done, and the girls will be free from being congested in the rooms.
Authorities of Keleo Senior High Technical School are breaking their back to ensuring that government's implementation of the free SHS policy is successful. This they have done by rationing students to some uncompleted projects. The onus now lies on the government to fulfill part of the bargain by ensuring that those uncompleted projects are completed. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam, Keleo.
Well, that's our colleague Rafiq Salam reporting from Keleo, showing us some of the realities of what is happening. Even though I was in support of free SHS, and I'm still in support of free SHS, you know, there's some basics that I think, as a country, akunyani table dear. I mean, I think we've gotten to a place where akunyapa ni table dear. The country should be able to get a piece of wood and, you know, knock it together and make a chair and a table. No matter how many, even if it's 1 million chairs and table, I think Ghana should be able to make 1 million chairs and table. And that the usual excuse of financial constraint doesn't come in here. But with me in studio is our in-house educational consultant, Dr. Prince Ama. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
And then our long-lost brother, Dr. Udrosai, who's a lawyer, an economist, and a governance expert. He wears many hats. And here today, I think he's here on all the hats.
Definitely.
Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
Very good, very good, very good. Let me start with you, Doctor. we're going to start with the situation now, and then we'll look at what happens, after they leave school. But is there an excuse? I mean, what will be an excuse? I agree. Look, get everybody in the school to learn. We don't have a bottomless pit. But chairs and table, I mean, I don't know. Can we have an excuse?
Thank you very much, Nana. And let me say good evening to our viewers. I think we should not have an excuse when it comes to basically chairs and tables that fresh Form 1 students need. Then one will ask the question, what kind of infrastructure assessment was undertaken before commencing the process? But let me also say that any policy has its own challenges. There are pros and cons. There are challenges that needed to be learnt fast and then resolved. I want to believe that we are learning the lessons, we are learning very fast, but there's the basic things that should not have surfaced now as we are seeing. Table and chairs, books, and I'm being told that even in certain schools, they are yet to receive their textbooks. The textbooks that are meant for the Form 1 students are yet to receive. It seems to me that the Ghana Education Service, Ministry of Education, could have done better by way of communication and by way of roping in key stakeholders like parents, like teachers, like district assemblies, like churches and faith-based organizations, because education delivery is a partnership arrangement. The government cannot do it alone. The best the government can do is to introduce a policy, start from somewhere, but then there should be clear-cut role clarifications so that these key stakeholders will know what to do, where they come in to meet the government halfway. After all, it is the society and the children and the parents of the children who ultimately stands to benefit. So I think there is more room for improvement.
Doc, Amma, what's the situation and what are excuses?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. If you recall, in our previous discussions, I have said that I've moved away from looking at the limitations and the weaknesses of the system and to look at the learning curve and how fast we can address the situation. If you look at all the previous interventions in education, it has largely been focused or related to expanded access, regardless of the learning that takes place. And one of the biggest issues we are facing across the world itself is a learning crisis. Children are in school, they are not learning. And the situation we are currently facing appears to be in that direction, that we've got the kids in school and they are not learning. Now, what could we have done? I mean, we've passed that stage. We could have got teachers recruited. We could have ensured that we've got the facilities before rolling the program. Fortunately, that's not been the situation. What do we need to do, being confronted with what we are facing now? What do we need to do? What we need to do is quickly to map up a strategy on what the system requires. And I understand that there are some ongoing policy discussions and policy development on what we call system capacity, to try to see what the system requires to be able to deliver quality education for all, and also to look at equity issues in relation to access and achievement in the education sector. So whilst all these are ongoing, to be able to provide the basis, the real facts, data-based information to help government to do it, financing and costing, we will quickly have to address the problems of the schools on individual basis, whilst we look at the broader goals, because the issues are very broad. There are people who were posted in schools that required 400 students and 600 students were posted in that school. Obviously, we don't have the capacity to absorb the students. Now, the end result is that learning will not take place. And when they have inadequate facilities, lack of textbooks or limited textbooks, teachers are unavailable, and now we are now doing teacher recruitment. Some posting will be done soon, but these are the things that we could have done earlier. We've passed that stage. So what I can advise is that government must act swiftly in terms of getting the requisite materials to the schools, getting stakeholders involved. And as my colleague is saying, the stakeholder involvement is critical in this regard. It seems that the way the program has gone, and with the political economics around it, sometimes it becomes a bit difficult to try to provide long-lasting suggestions that may not attempt to undermine what the system is trying to pursue. But in the situation we find ourselves, it is very precarious and it needs urgent attention.
With urgent attention, and I speak for Ajina Secondary Technical, which is literally next door to the Republic of Edumasa. Now, Form 2 and Form 3 have a population of 300, and they had an intake of Form 1, 1,370. So Form 2 and Form 3 together, I think 300 thereabout, and they had a fresh intake, Form 1 students, 1,370. And you know, the quicker they come to the aid, so the students are literally just everywhere. I mean, the town, everybody's just overwhelmed. Every space is being rented out, and supervision is very, very low. Supervision is very, very low. So I think the quicker the government intervenes, you know, the better it will be. But so let me stay with you. So what products are we going to get after 2.5 years?
I think that what's the key is how swiftly we are able to move in and provide the needed facilities. You see, the curriculum that the teachers are using and the students are being exposed to is time-bound. And so if they are limited in terms of the pace to which they have to undergo the expectations of the curriculum, then, of course, it affects the general output. I have said, and it is likely to be the case in 2020, that the current system that we are running, which is more of an inclusive education system, and I would have to take some few seconds to try to explain that. In the previous system, where people were selected based on grades, it was largely highly selective examination. So you write the BECE, and you need to get certain aggregate to be able to get to secondary school. With the system we are running now, where they are saying that you get 9, don't get 9 in maths or English. And what it essentially means that even if you get aggregate 52, you're going to secondary school. So that's an inclusive system. Almost everybody in the secondary school. Now, the WASI that we are going to write in 2020, WASI is not an inclusive examination. WASI is a matriculation examination. In fact, it was originally meant for university students. So all over the world, largely, you would notice that the examination bodies are based on the university campuses. In fact, WAEC itself was established with the support of University of Cambridge. So WASI is a matriculation exam, is purposely to select some few students to go up there. When you have an inclusive system, you are likely to have people who don't have the cognitive ability to write that exam, and you have many people not doing well. I don't know if you are getting.
Yes, I get
so
you.
in 2020, as we go forward, we'll see more people not doing well in WASI, not because the system is not capable of preparing them, but it's just because they do not have the cognitive ability to undertake that rigorous grammar type system that we are running. What we need to do in terms of preparing our people will be turning our attention on what is our focus for secondary education. If our focus of secondary education is to make sure that we develop our people's capacity to meet industrial requirements and needs, then we would want to pursue policies or curriculum programs that will help our people and prepare them to go to the world of work after secondary school, just as it happens in other developed countries. If our secondary education takes its inspiration from the historical antecedent of secondary education itself, that's to prepare people to go to university or tertiary education and to be able to get into middle level management and white collar jobs, then of course our focus will be prepare our people to write WASI, and all of them will be pushed to go to the university system. So that is each of these policy choices that we make has implication on the type of experiences we offer for our people at the secondary school. What we are creating for us in terms of the type of experience we are giving to our people, I don't think that it is proper. We do know, we recognize that, government recognize that, I think, because it has already initiated policies. I've been involved in the process or agenda to reform the curriculum from primary school up to secondary school, that is pre-tertiary level. There are attempts to reform the teacher education sector as well, and I'm privileged to be involved in this. So I can see that we do seem to not be content with the kind of people we are training, and so we are making effort to try to develop a curriculum that is responsive to the needs of the people. But largely for secondary education, as to which type of people we are creating or we are trying to produce depends on which policy dimension or policy focus we have on our secondary education. But it does appear to me that we are heading towards training more people to go to tertiary education.
I'm going to go to Doc, but let me take a quick break so that when I come back, I don't want to break Doc's flow on this at all, because I see him making lots of notes. So let me take a quick break here, and when I come, Doc would answer that after all this, whether they are going to university or not, what happens after they finish. Stay tuned. Well, thank you very much for staying. We're looking at free SSS, matters arising, and what happens after the program. In 2.5 years' time, they are all going to come out into either the world of work or the world of tertiary school. And you saw them, some sitting on benches, on floors, sleeping rough. Are these, the fresh and good, clean minds that are going to come out to become good resource persons for Ghana? Dr. Drew, 2.5 years' time, 400,000, they will be out there ready either to go into the tertiary institutions or go to the world of work.
Before we come to that, let me also say that I think it's about time the government decentralizes the free SHS coordinatorship or the secretariatship to the district level. So we shouldn't have free SHS secretariats at the GES headquarters. You should have free SHS secretariat at the regional level, free SHS secretariat at the district level, so they will be able to provide on-the-spot technical support to the various schools as and when the matters arise. Secondly, I think it's about time we restructure the PTAs so that the PTAs will not wait for government. Because I know certain institutions, the PTAs have been so innovative that they are not waiting for government. They are finding ways of contributing on their own to motivate and support the teachers so they can organize early morning classes and even after school classes to support the school. Now the critical question then is, where do they go after 2.5 years? The problem of our country is that we have not been able to develop a national human resource development policy that would help us to project into the future the skills requirement of this country. In the next 5 years, for instance, how many medical doctors do we need? How many do we have now? Which schools are going to train the ones that we need? Because we do not have that in place, we have people going into universities to maybe pursue programs which at the end of the day may not earn them a job. Secondly, even the courses that are allocated or the programs that are allocated to pupils or students who go to SHS, who determines who should do what? Do we know the number of students who are going to pursue science? And is it a way of telling us that that is the way, or these are the kinds of human resources we need? How many people are going into this home economics? If Ghana Education Service, using the computer selection process, is doing this program allocations, do they take that one into consideration? They are not able to do that because the National Human Resource Development Policy is not there. We are training people just to acquire the academic qualifications, and at the end of the day, what happens? So at the end of the day, if we are not very careful, we may end up being inundated with graduates without work. And that is dangerous for a society like ours. We should not be doing that. It is about time we formulate a national human resource development policies, distribute the capacity building or training to the various universities. For instance, I see no reason why a private university will be set up and the university will determine the program they want to run. At least we should be able to indicate to them, this is the direction of the nation. These are the kinds of human resources that we need now and into the future. So run these programs. And then we can say that University of Ghana, give us this number of graduates, give us this number of doctors. We can say that KNUST, you are a technical university. Upgrade your programs so that people who may not want to go into mainstream arts programs should come into the technical programs. Now we have all our polytechnics that were meant to provide technical education at the highest level, going to become technical universities. Now I hear our teacher training colleges are also going to become university of some sort. So where are we going? But I can tell you that countries like Germany and others have developed not only through arts education, but through science and technical education. So it is about time we have our priorities right. It is about time we develop a national human resource development policies to project into the future the skills requirement for the development of a nation like Ghana.
But Doc, let me stay with you. I mean, it is said that once somebody is educated, they're able to look after themselves, your GDP will go up. So, I mean, you also just to educate the person, and when they come out, they should be able to, find something to do.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in governance. As and when you are educating the people, you need to expand the economy so that the economy can absorb them. At the moment, if we do a baseline analysis, let's just ask ourselves, if we are producing 10,000 graduates in a year, is the economy expanding to absorb them? The quick answer is no. So where do we have the excess going? And now, if people advertise jobs, they require working experience. Who should give them the working experience? Now, I'm even told that national service, certain institutions are not taking national service persons. Why? Because they don't have the capacity to absorb them. This should be a wake-up call on us as a nation that we are heading towards a dangerous point in our development agenda. We should expand the economy. Yes, the government is about doing this, one district, one factory, etc. How fast can we do that? And what kinds of calculations have gone into it to suggest that in the next 1 year, we'll be able to absorb people? I think at times we come up with policies without adequate baseline. And that is where the problem is. We should be futuristic in our output. We should try as much as possible to know that going into the future, there is danger. Because I am afraid for this country. I'm afraid for this country because free SHS, 2.5 years, they will come out. And even, most importantly, next year, we'll have 2 batches. The following year, we'll have 3 batches. These 3 batches will be running at the same time. What happens to quality? Certain schools are doing well, and that is why I am calling on all stakeholders to come on board. Faith-based organizations, religious organizations, parents, teachers association should wake up. They should partner government. Government cannot do it alone. And we should also be able to set up businesses. The economy is not expanding. So if you are a government and you are doing free SHS, then you should be able or should be prepared to expand the economy twice so you'll be able to absorb them.
Prince, you are the technical guys, Doc. So at the moment, is there any slightest chance in saying, look, this is the leaning towards the economy, so do something with your hands, or do something with your brain where it's more grammar, reading and writing, or it's a saw and hammer? What's the faith? Or you just finish and come and try your luck? What's the direction?
Well, I mean, if you look at what we have been doing over the years until recently, and I'm saying until recently because I've seen a policy focus, a new policy direction. But until recently, our attention has been much more on producing people with grammar type education who would then transit to the university system, as against expanding much more financial support in expanding our technical vocational base. So if you look at the expenditure on grammar type education and technical education, you see a huge gap. You see a very huge gap there. And so our focus has been finish senior high school, go and get polytechnic or get a university to attend, and once you finish, go and look for a job. So, and with everybody trying to go to university and with limited job opportunities and expanded university access, there's a huge unemployment issues. The World Bank has recently issued a report and arguing that for every increase in access to university, there is high unemployment rate. And so what it means is that there has to be a significant refocus of our policy direction towards an agenda that allows people to create jobs. And what we are seeing, and from the policy document that I have seen and been involved in developing, I see that we are focusing much more on the technical vocation at the moment. There seems to be a policy direction. Implementation, I cannot tell, but between 2018 to 2030, the new education strategic plan, which is anchored on the SDG 4 of the United Nations, will be focusing much more on technical vocational education, with much more funding in that stream. That's good news. Because when we have more people creating, then they are certainly going to create jobs. Then I think that if you finish technical vocational education programs, and if we are able to make it very attractive, because at the moment, the cost of technical education is quite higher than a unit cost of senior high school. And so whilst you are talking about 340 Ghana cedi as a unit cost for educating one senior high school person, you're talking about over 4,000 Ghana cedi for a technical vocational education, which is very similar, very close to a university, the cost, unit cost of educating someone at the university at around 5,000.
Let me jump in here. So even though it's 4,000, as a society, we really look down on people who can work with their hands. If somebody said I was a plumber, a carpenter, a steel bender, we think they're a second-class citizen. And that's what's not making people attractive of me, maybe a plumber, for what? No, I'd rather wait in the queue and be a receptionist.
Well, I think that if you have noticed the trend in recent times, you will see that young people are now preferring to create their own jobs than going to look
by repairing mobile phones. They
are preparing. They are now, and if you talk to anybody, oh, I am into mobile app, I am into doing a small business on my own, I'm into bakery, I'm into that kind of thinking and mentality was not evident some 10 years ago. When we finished, we are looking for jobs. Every young person you see now is creating something. And I think that's the focus now. Everything I'm wearing now and everything that you are wearing now is technical vocational education from your head to toe. So we do recognize. If you go around the buildings that we see, they are not graduates who constructed them. So we do acknowledge the importance.
From Togo, Mali, Guinea, Benin. I mean, I had to tell my palace in the Dumas, and they came from Togo. I was so disappointed.
Well,
Tireless from Togo.
Well, if we wanted to get tailors in Ghana, I'm sure that they are very nice and brilliant tailors in Ghana. And if you go around here, the buildings that we see all over, the small buildings, you will see that the carpenters around us. What we need to do is, as I've said, when we align the secondary education system to the market needs, then our focus change. If we align to market needs, the courses that they are experiencing, if they are doing science, they are doing some entrepreneurial program in it. If they are doing general art, there are some courses that will enable them to apply what they are learning in the everyday context. So the focus of our secondary education actually determines how they are going to fit into the world. The secondary education has three main streams. One, for those who have the aptitude to continue to higher education, that's senior, the university and the rest. Two, for those who have the aptitude or who have the capacity in terms of their hands-on experience to go into technical vocational education.
I'm not seeing
and three, for those who can go to the world of work. So you take, for example, the police service, the army, the several other state institutions that accept SS graduates. So it means that if we are to train people and provide them with the requisite attitude and disposition required to be successful in life, then they know that once they finish, they have opportunity to go to army, or they have opportunity to become a fuel attendant, for example. Now, just many jobs that are supposed to be for secondary schools are being applied for by HND graduates and even graduates.
Because that's where the problem is.
Yes.
Our ability to identify the talent of the students at SHS is the problem. Because we are not able to identify that for the students, he is not or she is not a university material. He's very good in this area, so go to technical education. We are not able to do that. We allow them and we allow the parents to choose programs for them. At the end of the day, it becomes a problem for the nation. Why don't we, from day one, the computer selection process should be able to do the program allocation in such a way that we'll be able to get the skills mix we need as a nation to develop. That's big. So the counseling unit of the Ghana Education Service and other institutions, what are they doing? I think we've gotten to a point where we should be able to do the program allocation at the SS level, at the BECE. We should be able to know those who go to the technical education, those who go to secondary education, and we should be double sure that those who go to secondary education will go to the universities to become the medical doctors, to become the lawyers we need. Those who go to vocational education will become the mechanical engineers, technical engineers, the plumbers that we need. Then there will be that balance.
Doctor, I see the issue is that those who are chosen into the medical field look down on those who are becoming plumbers. And so those who, are genuinely good plumbers will say, no, I'm not going to be a plumber because I'll be looked down on. And the whole nation, and I every time I ask, anytime I hire an artisan, the first thing I ask is, how many people come to you for training? The first thing every time, like a carpenter, a mason, a tiler, first thing I ask is, how many, young guys do you get coming to you to learn a trade? And they'll say, look, the young guys
it
today...
has to do with awareness raising, sensitization, and then explanation to people. I have high regard to artisans because of the monies I pay.
Yes.
So at a point in time, I jokingly tell them, look, I better leave my job and come and do your work, because they collect huge sums. You understand? So I think the Ministry of Education should have a very good working relationship with the ministry responsible for employment and manpower development, so that we'll be able to do that awareness raising. Most parents are not aware. Most parents do not even know. We have parents who would have to rely on teachers to tell them which program their children should pursue. So branding is very important, because when you go to China, for instance, in China, there's nothing like artisans, there's nothing like you are a medical doctor. You see the average medical doctor who can repair a vehicle. So I think we should do multi-scaling. We should do rebranding. We should let people understand that no one is useless in this country. You can use your head, you can use your hand, you can use your heart, and you have a role to play in the development of this country.
Okay, so can I? Yeah, okay,
yes.
Thanks very much, Doc. So if I can continue from there, we have done several reforms, and each of these reforms that we've done, especially in the 1987 one, clearly we decided to head towards vocationalizing education. That's why we brought technical drawing, we brought technical skills, artwork, sewing, and the rest. So even now, we have pre-technical skills. All are part of an agenda to reorient the minds of our young people that technical education is important, and to give them a feel, and to be able to enable people to generate interest in going to technical vocational education. However, you see, what is happening is that during the selection process, elsewhere, the selection process into technical vocational education is not based on academic performance. It is based on the choice of the child. Now, when we decided to do segregation on the basis of the high-performing students doing grammar type of education and low-performing students going technical vocational education, that segregation obviously creates a lacuna, and it allows people to begin to feel that if I'm not good, then I have been relegated to the background to go and do technical vocational courses. And so once you create that problem, then it becomes a disincentive for an individual who would have otherwise chose a technical vocational courses. One of the ways we can address is to go to the comprehensive education system, the comprehensive secondary education system. Now, in the comprehensive secondary education system, we have something we call parity of esteem, achieving parity of esteem between the grammar type of education and technical vocational education by locating these schools or these courses on the same compound. So, for example, you go to Mfantipim, you can do technical courses, you can do vocational courses, okay? You can do courses that would have otherwise been delivered outside the school system. In that case, if a child is going there to do sewing at Mfantipim, he is going there because Mfantipim has got a good record, and then he can be able to relate what he is doing. He can be able to link with his colleagues, because the colleagues there are noted to be intelligent people, okay? And so when you do that, you are invariably bringing inclusivity in the education system, allowing people with different ability or different abilities to be located in the same school. That has been the system, especially in the UK, that has worked very, very well for them. We tried something like that by setting up the technical secondary schools. All right, even the technical secondary schools, we tend to allow or select people who are high ability individuals to go there. So that's the problem we are creating. So in order to address that and make technical vocational very attractive to the young person to go there, there has to be education, public education. There has to be selection of these schools must not be based on academic abilities. As right now, as we are doing secondary education very soon, is not based on academic abilities any longer. With 92% of the students being posted to secondary schools, with a minimum of 52, aggregate 52, secondary education is no longer for the higher ability student. It is rather the issue now has become the equity in the quality of secondary education these students will get. The higher your scores, the better the secondary school you'll get. That's now where the problem has. Doc, so in that sense, in that sense, what we need to do is to, one, as I've said, bridge the parity of esteem and to allow people to feel that secondary education or senior high school or grammar type of education and technical vocational is okay for them. Two, just to wind up, the path through technical vocational education is very laborious. You know, the process, when you go to senior high school, you know that from senior high school, you're going straight to a tertiary institution. When you go technical vocational type, you're going to write TVI, grade 1, grade 2. If you are steno, you write steno.
We don't even understand it.
Before you see, so before you can move on to the polytechnic and go and do some diploma course, and there's so many levels, about 12 levels or so before you get to a certain qualification. What is a straightforward? So, fortunately, the CODVET or technical vocational education, we used to be under different ministries, have now been brought and aligned under the Ministry of Education, and I'm sure that some of these things will be addressed.
Look, you see, the clock is still ticking. So we will align, we will do this, we have to do this, the clock is still ticking. What then happens? Like you're saying, in 3 years' time, there will be, 3-year streams of, and I don't know if, so Ajna Secondary School will still have another 1,300 being pushed into next year. I mean, that's, in 3 years' time, that's nearly 1 million, if not 1 million students who have finished SHS and are ready for the world.
The time is now, Nana. We should start putting in place pragmatic measures to expand the economy. Because whether we like it or not, they will come out. If you go to South American country, they use what we call a voucher system. The government has a minimum amount they want to spend on secondary education. So you have a voucher. If you feel you want to go to technical education, you take your voucher there. If you feel you want to go to a better secondary school where the school fees is higher than what the government is paying, you go there. So then you have people who may want to go into the arts education, science education. The parents will bear their responsibility. Because the government wants to encourage technical vocational education. We can have same here. Now, the government can also work hand in hand with the private sector to expand the economy. So that at least, as and when they graduate, they will have work to do. Ministry of Education should also stop sanctioning teachers.
But Doc, you see, if they expand the economy, then Dr. Ahmad then should train the students so that they fit into the expansion.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming. You expand the economy, you develop a human resource plan that will tell us, or that will give us an indication of the kind and the caliber of human resource we need in the next 5 years. We know the schools that are training them. Then we know that at all times we have certain minimum level of or minimum quantity or certain skills gap in the country. Because I can tell you that we may have unemployment in this country, but there are certain skills that are also very scarce. It's because we haven't prioritized our things well. So the need for us to connect our education to the market requirement by the development of a national human resource development policy that projects the human resource requirement of the country into the future and distribute it among the various universities is very important. But as of now, if you ask how many medical doctors do we need in the next 5 years, we will not know. We know the numbers that we have now, but the numbers that we will need into the future, we don't know. So people go to universities and they want to be medical doctors. Whether they will get a job or they will be employed or not, they do not know. Because they've seen a medical doctor making it. How many lawyers would we need as a country in the next 5 years? We don't know. How many accountants would we need at the next 5 years? We don't know. How many plumbers do we have now? We don't know. How many would we need into the future? We don't know. So they are just training. So why would we have unemployment? It is all about planning. If we want to develop, let us take our human resource development policy serious.
I see you jotted down something you wanted to.
Yes, I mean, if you go to, I was thinking that the NDPC should be able to provide
the 40-year development plan.
Yes, should be able to tell us. I have not had the opportunity to look at the document, but I think that it should be able to tell us what the kind of human resource capacity that we require as a nation. Because if we don't have that data, then what are we doing?
So how does it fit into the work of Ministry of Education?
Exactly. Then? For the Ministry of Education, I think that in terms of, for example, developing the strategic plan, they are looking at the strategic priorities of the NDPC program, policy documents with those that are relevant to education, for example.
But have they given you what they need from you?
Well, I mean, in terms of developing such document, you're looking at priority areas. So that's why I said that I have seen technical vocational education as being a very important priority areas, and there's a focused attention on there. Because in largely, if you look at the financial streams that goes into the education sector, large proportion of the money go into senior high school as against technical vocational. And the trend has been so for many years. Last year, for example, whilst we're doing over 3 million or so in senior high school, we're doing less than 1 million Ghana cedi on technical vocational education and training. So that focus attention on changing the agenda in ensuring that we are training people who have the capacity to provide jobs and create jobs should be our focus.
One of the issues that have been concerned that we are spending a lot of our budget on SHS, even though there's just a fewer number of students there, whereas between primary and JSS, carry a whole chunk. So what's that?
That is a very sad story, honestly. If we are looking at the ladder in terms of education funding, the higher you go, the lower. The higher you go, the higher the cost of investment. So there's less investment at KG than at primary, and less investment in primary than at junior secondary school, and that has been the trend. Whereas in other jurisdictions, you will see that much more funds are expended at the grassroots, at the base of the education structure. So that's a worrying trend, and I think that government should attempt to address that imbalance. I'm sure that
to get the foundation
right, because there's so much emphasis at the secondary school, secondary and university or tertiary education. The costs and the budgetary allocations are high. But you see, if you look at all the West Africa countries, we are doing the highest in terms of how much of our budget allocation goes into education. For the past since 2011 up to now, we've been doing between 22% to 27% of our budget, and we'll be doing between 6% to 8% of our GDP on education, among the largest, across our peers. So much is going into the system.
Analysis. What have we benefited?
What are we getting out of? Yes. What are we getting? The key issue is what are we getting? All the reform that is ongoing. My major concern is that the ultimate goal of our reform is learning. The ultimate goal of our reform is learning. So if our reform does not engender or stimulate learning, and for us to see an improved quality in learning, then it becomes a problem.
Learning as a catalyst for development.
Unfortunately, there are no benchmark for us to measure learning apart from WASI and BEC and the rest. And then the National Inspectorate Board, which is an independent organization established by the Education Act of 2008, which is now currently being resourced and have offices all over. I'm sure that will play a very important role in ensuring that we have a benchmark for measuring quality.
A conversation that I hope has just started and not ended. But after free SHS, then what? And while they are in there, where do we position them so that when they come out, they fit perfectly either in the world of work or in the world of tertiary education? It's very, very important. And while they are there, we must make sure they are learning and not just there for being their sake. Thank you very much, Dr. Otro Sai, governance expert, lawyer, and an economist. And thank you very much, Dr. Prince Ama, an educational consultant. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And to you at home, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.